Sweet, we won the die roll here, so we have a decent enough hand to keep, sure. Both colors, some spells, a 2-drop creature. The Tormenting Voice is kind of here as both a discard outlet and a way to just keep the gas flowing. So overall, pretty good hand, but we'll see what we're up against. Just going to lead off on the Foreboding Ruins. No need to reveal here. Doesn't really matter either way, but just keep the information hidden and play the Foreboding Ruins tapped. Harsh Scrutiny, that's pretty unfortunate because now we're going to lose our only real threat in the Blood Rage Brawler, so we're going to have to try to find another creature or get a lot of drains in with the Faith of the Devoted. And expect our opponent to be playing a black aggressive deck, most likely. So here we've got an option of whether to play Tormenting Voice or not. I think I'm going to hold it so that we can play the Faith of the Devoted next turn, and then we'll get an extra drain off the Tormenting Voice. But I could understand playing it now just to cycle through our hand a little bit more. But maybe we'll draw a Madness card we want to use with this Tormenting Voice. So there is upside definitely to holding it. Unfortunately, no artifact yet to turn on the 3 damage from the Unlicensed Disintegration. So Scrap Heap Scrounger, pretty annoying card, of course, one of the staple standard threats. We have some in our sideboard, so definitely any black deck should at least consider that card. So we could unlicense the Scrap Heap, but I think there's definitely diminishing returns to killing a creature that can come back from the graveyard. So I'm going to go with the Faith of the Devoted. So if we say draw a land, we can just Tormenting Voice, pitching a land. But if we do find a Madness Outlet, maybe we'll go for that. This is interesting. Weaponcraft Enthusiast. Haven't seen this one see much standard play. So if our opponent goes wide with servos, that's going to be pretty annoying. Knowing that we have the Unlicensed Disintegration, not surprised to see our opponent go ahead and make the servos. Makes sense. And attack us for 3. So we're definitely in a pretty rough spot. Our opponent had a 1-mana spell to disrupt our creature, then a 2-drop, then a 3-drop, even though these aren't necessarily staple cards in Standard. So I'm going to run out this Foreboding Ruins, reveal the mountain, and then go for this Tormenting Voice. I think we just pitch the land, go for the drain here off the Faith of the Devoted. Double Key to the City. Okay, so not exactly what we wanted, but good news is that we have an artifact now to make the Unlicensed Disintegrations 3 damage. We don't want 2 of this card. The card is very good, but we actually kind of want to land, so we can just play Key to the City into an unlicensed disintegration. So sometimes you get these weird situations where you discard a card and then you wish you had it back, but we didn't know what we would pick up off the Tormenting Voice. So I'm just going to take the 5. No real option there. Metallic Mimic. Wow, so looks like our opponent may be playing... Definitely looks like an artifact-based deck. And there's a land. Okay, so that is what I said we wanted. Hopefully I don't regret those words. So just going to pass with the idea that we can unlicense Disintegration away the Metallic Mimic. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, probably just best to do it right now if we're going to do it. Our opponent already knows about the unlicensed. We don't want to allow our opponent to improvise something into play using the Metallic Mimic. So I like just going for the unlicensed Disintegration in that spot. And one nice thing about the Key to the City is it's an easy way to turn on the Madness, and it's a discard outlet for the Faith of the Devoted. So we've got one of those in play. That's good news. Faith of the Devoted can gain us some life. So we're kind of on the burn plan at the moment. We're going to take pretty much no choice. We're going to take the 5. And we could have used Key to the City end of turn, but I prefer to take the draw step. Unfortunately, we drew another Key to the City. So I like just passing the turn. We can play an unlicensed Disintegration to at least save ourselves from a little bit of damage. Maybe just get rid of a Scrap Heap Scrounger temporarily, because we are at 9, so we're in a precarious spot. I think we have to go ahead and use an unlicensed Disintegration. So this should momentarily stem the bleeding a little bit. We're going to take 5 and fall all the way down to 4. Our opponent's going to go down to 10 off the Key to the City activation, and we're going to go back up to 6. So it's a closer game than it might look. We're definitely still behind, I think. So easy choice to discard one of these keys. Key to the Cities. And I think we want to draw a card now, just to keep gas in our hand. We'd really like a Madness card. We didn't find one. Blood Rage Brawler seems okay in this spot, not great. We can use it as a blocker. The issue is that if our opponent has a removal spell, we are just dead. Because our opponent's going to have 8 coming across with the Scrap Heap Scrounger coming into play from the graveyard. So the other option would be to Tormenting Voice, hope to find a land, so that we can Tormenting Voice and Key to the City, so get 2 activations out of the Faith of the Devoted. So I kind of like that. I kind of prefer the Tormenting Voice just because it plays around removal, and the Blood Rage Brawler... I mean, I think we're like 50%-ish to hit an untapped land. So If we do, I think we're in a decent spot. I think it's worth going for this Tormenting Voice. Definitely risky. So I am going to pay the 1 for the Faith. Go up to 8. Hope to hit a land here. Untapped land, specifically. Okay, so we got there with the untapped land. So it's 8 to 8. We can drain our opponent down to 6. Now we're going to have to discard one of these 2 cards in order to do that. But this is really close. This is definitely a close one. So the question is, what do we discard between the Faith and the Brawler? Faith, it's another drain, but Blood Rage Brawler kind of is as well because it's another discard outlet. I think we keep the Faith because if we do draw a Fiery Temper, well, if we draw a Fiery Temper or an Alms of the Vein, it should be game either way. We draw another Unlicensed Disintegration. We would, let's see. Yeah, I think we want to keep the Faith of the Devoted, just because our opponents can be at 6, and an Alms or a Fiery Temper would be lethal, but the Unlicensed, I believe, would not. Let's see. So if we Unlicensed, yeah, because we would also have to have a card to we'd have to have 2 cards to discard plus the Unlicensed. So I don't think it actually matters too much here which of these 2 we discard. I could be wrong. Alright, well, I'm going to go with the Brawler. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us. We do have to pay 2 to draw a card off the key, so that's worth considering. So yeah, I'm going to take the draw off the key. And now I'm thinking we should have actually kept the Blood Rage Brawler just because of the mana situation we're in. Hopefully this ends up being okay. Crossing my fingers at this point. Because we'd really like to be able to kill our opponent this turn. But it's going to require some good draws. Land and land. So that didn't really matter which we discarded. We could play the Faith. We can bring our opponent down to 2, basically. Play Faith of the Devoted. And then we get 2 drains when we discard to the Key to the City. But nope, that's going to be the game. Alright, so looking at the sideboard, I like the Magma Sprays to get rid of our opponent's Scrapheap Scroungers. We're on the play here, which is worth noting. So we saw lots of little creatures, so that kind of makes me think Absence Judgment could be good as well. The Scroungers, the Release the Gremlins could be good. So this deck does have the option of just going into more of a control game plan and taking out a lot of the creatures. So I like doing that in certain spots. So I'm going to take out the Flame Blade Adepts for sure. And then we also saw like Harsh Scrutiny. Our opponent seemed to have more removal spells in hand, so I like going a little bit more controlling. The Cut Ribbons is just a good solid card in any creature matchup. We can board in some Release the Gremlins. Chandras and Hazarets give us more of a top end. Hazaret would have been nice there. The Tormenting Voices provide more gas, and then we can take out. We can actually take out almost all of our creatures. So I'm gonna go down to just 2 copies of Bomat Courier and use the Key to the Cities basically as just a way to filter through our deck. So we're going to see how this works for game 2. We were almost able to get there with just the burn play in that game. We were 1 Fiery Temper or Alms of the Vein away basically on that last turn. Okay, I like this. I'm going to keep it. We've got a Lightning Axe, plus now we finally drew a Madness card, which is nice because that's what this deck is built around. So we have a Madness card. We have the Faith of the Devoted again. So hopefully we're able to go on a similar plan as last game, but this time we have boarded out our creatures. Now we do have, unfortunately, the Hazaret, which is the one card that can still get hit by the Harsh Scrutiny. So that's unfortunate. So the Hazaret's gone. Our opponent actually is favored to just brick because of our sideboard plan, so a little bit unlucky in that sense. Key to the City, solid pickup. We can get that into play. We still have the Unlicensed Disintegrations in our deck for removal. And we're going to go back on the same plan. Okay, Syndicate Trafficker. That's a card we can deal with. Although our opponent, if they have an artifact, can give it indestructibility. Hazaret's nice pickup. I like, in general, just getting the Faith of the Devoted into play, because it can spiral. As we saw in the last game, it almost just went the distance. Just the one Faith of the Devoted plus discarding our own cards was almost enough. So this should be a great spot if we're able to Lightning Axe plus Fiery Temper. We have the 1 energy, so we can temporarily have 2 red if we want it. Well, now we also have red already, so we can just play this mountain. And we have a little bit of a decision here. We could just Fiery Temper away the Gifted Aether board and hold the Lightning Axe, but I think we want to just do both and not activate the key. So we also get the Faith of the Devoted activation here. The Fiery Temper now can take care of the Syndicate Trafficker. So this time we're in a better spot because we're going to be able to clear away our opponent's creatures earlier. And also we have this Hazaret still in our hand. So assuming our opponent doesn't play like another discard spell, I like not activating the key, holding the Hazaret, and then playing it. And it's pretty hard to answer Hazaret, as it turns out. We can pretty much ensure that we have 1 or less cards in our hand. So I am going to play the Hazaret now. And I like keeping the Foreboding Ruins in hand as a card we can discard. So it can help find us more gas. We can actually just discard it right now because it's not really doing anything, and just pay the 2 mana from the key to draw a fresh card. So Rush of Vitality. Okay, so our opponent does have some life gain, which is pretty annoying. Not the end of the world, though, because this Hazoret is consistent clock. I'm going to go ahead and use the key right now, just to give us a fresh card. It does mean that we don't get the Faith of the Devoted activation, but we can get that next turn. And the reason why I like this is it digs us towards more of our burn spells, like the Fiery Temper and the Alms. So we essentially get the card back for 2 mana, which is what happened there. Okay, now we can go ahead and use this Fiery Temper, which is great. So get the activation from the Faith of the Devoted. And I think we want to just go straight at our opponent with this Fiery Temper. Just try to get this game over with. And once again, keeping the Canyon Slough in hand seems correct. 4 lands is pretty much as we need. Now we do have the activation from Hazoret to consider. So here we actually just have lethal. We don't even have to draw a card off the Key to the City, because what we can do is we can just, and I don't know why our opponent's not attacking here, but we can discard to the key, and it looks like our opponent sees it. So had lethal in a couple of ways in that spot. So looking at our sideboard plan, I think we want to just take out the Bomat Couriers on the draw. And we do have to board in a couple of creatures, because as you can see, we've got essentially all of our creatures in the board at the moment. So out of these options, I think that I like the Blood Rage Brawler and the Flameblade Adept. I'm going to go with the Adepts because just having a 1 mana play is good. I think they're better on the draw than the Bomats. So we've got a ton of removal, which is going to position us nicely against these cards like Gifted Aetherborns. Now, this is a rough hand. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of gas, which is the upside of the hand. But if we don't draw our second land, we're just too far gone, so we have to mulligan. And this is much more keepable. So I am going to keep this one. So a 4th land, we've already got 3. Now we do need a 4th land for Chandra, but I think we're pretty likely to pick it up at some point. So I'm going to bottom that mountain. Alright, finally, our opponent is bricking up the Harsh Scrutiny. They are getting what they deserve, in my opinion. So now it's essentially like our opponent's mulligan also. They are on a 6-card hand with the Scry because of the Harsh Scrutiny, and so are we. So that's pretty interesting. Now, we're still on the draw, but it's definitely a big difference to whiff off the harsh scrutiny versus getting a major threat. So we actually did find the 4th land already. So the question is whether we want to just play this Canyon Slough, and I think we do. Normally, I'm an advocate of just playing it if we have discard outlets. Like, we can filter through these lands with the key to the city anyways, so I'd rather just have it and put it into play because it comes into play tapped, and we may just want to go key to the city into, say, 3 mana spell into Chandra. It's a possibility where we would want all of these lands to come into play untapped. For our opponent, okay, so our opponent has a Metallic Mimic. See what the name is. We do have this cut. So it's going to be Aetherborn. That's interesting. We are a little bit worried about Gifted Aetherborn. So not necessarily, I don't necessarily think we have to take out the Metallic Mimic, but depends what we draw. So it's a key to the city. I mean, it's a little bit dangerous to let the Metallic Mimic live. I think we do take it out. If our opponent plays a Gifted Aetherborn specifically, it's going to be a little bit annoying. But we have plenty of removal in our deck. We have the Chandra. So I think we're just supposed to take it out. And that way, if we draw another removal spell, like say our opponent does play Gifted Aetherborn, okay, fine. So if we draw another removal spell here, it's just absolutely fantastic for us, because we can kill the Aetherborn. Now, we didn't, which is a little bit unfortunate, which means we're going to take some damage. Now, and we don't want our opponent to be gaining life, but if our opponent doesn't have another play here, we're actually still in a great spot, because we can just kill the Aetherborn with the Chandra. Okay. We'll see if it's the same name with the Metallic Mimic or not. Yep, it is Aetherborn, going to be named again. So we have the option of using this Alms of the Vein. Which we can pretty much do whenever we want to. So I think it comes down to whether we want to play Chandra this turn or try to dig into removal with the key to the city. And I kind of like going for the digging into removal plan because the Chandra on this board isn't going to be great. We can use it as just a 1-for-1 removal spell, but I think we want to hold out for a better spot. So I am going to cycle through this Alms of the Vein and then draw a card with the key. And there's another Alms of the Vein and a Fiery Temper. That's actually great for us. So we can use the Fiery Temper to take out either of these, really. I think that the Gifted Aetherborn is the more pressing issue. So, sure, I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. Because we really don't want our opponent to be gaining life. That's the one thing that we don't want to have happen. We also saw Rush of Vitality, so it's a good thing we're doing this on our main phase, so our opponent doesn't have the ability to then respond and make the Gifted Aetherborn indestructible. And there's another Gifted Aetherborn. Okay, so this one we might actually just want to trade the Chandra for, essentially. There's another Harsh Scrutiny. So the one great thing about this game is our sideboard plan, so that we've just been completely dodging these Harsh Scrutinies, which is pretty funny that our opponents played 2, bricked twice. So we can, I think we just want to get rid of this Gifted Aetherborn now. Just cash the Chandra in. It's not great, but we're not going to be drawing a card off the key, but I think it's okay. I think we just want to get that card off the board. And I like the Aether Hub draw. I'm going to play that. So now we can also discard off the... We can discard the Alms of the main end of turn and still loot through our deck a little bit that way. So assuming our opponent's going to attack Chandra and get rid of it, which is sad, but we also should think about the ribbons in our graveyard as a late game burn option. So at least we're not taking 2 this turn. Our opponent does have to get rid of the Chandra. And then the great thing about the Alms of the Vein is that we have plenty of ways to gain life as well. So in fact, both our opponent and we have multiple life gain options. Alright, now here's where we try to draw into more gas. Hazoret is good. We also have this Key to the City, which isn't great. I don't think we want to put that into play right now. So I'm just going to pass the turn. Our opponent's probably going to attack us with everything. So we can just take that, fall down to 17, and then we can go for the Key to the City activation. And we're still at a decent life total because of this life gain. This is going to be our 3rd Alms in the Vein. And it looks like our opponent started to run out of gas. And since we have the key, we pretty much have gas for the rest of the game. We should have stuff to do. So it would be a very big gamble to draw a card off the Key to the City. I don't think it's necessary. I think we want to just get the Hazoret into play this turn. Because Hazoret plus Key to the City is just insane. And we actually found another copy of Hazoret. So I'm going to go ahead and use the key. Not too sure it matters which of these we discard. I am going to discard this Key to the City. I guess the one thing that could punish us for keeping the Hazoret is a 3rd copy of Harsh Scrutiny. But this position seems very good. Servo Schematic. Okay, sure. So we can bring our opponent down to 1 as things stand by just activating Hazoret to deal our opponent 2. And then, of course, we can just make the Hazoret unblockable, which is the plan either way. So of course with Hazoret being legendary, we aren't going to be putting that into play. The question is, do we draw a card off this Key to the City or not? Because if we do draw cards, like there's very corner case scenarios where we could not be able to activate the Hazoret. But it would be extremely unlikely, so I am going to draw the card. And so we can now... We have a bunch of options. We're definitely going to... We can Lightning Axe away some things here. We're definitely going to activate this Key to the City. Well, we don't necessarily have to. Okay, I think I like going with Lightning Axe here. So I'm going to Lightning Axe away the Servo, discard the Avacyn's Judgment. And Avacyn's Judgment away the Metallic Mimic. So this way, we're just getting rid of 2 of our opponent's creatures, bring our opponent down to 3. And we have lethal next turn. We also have... Actually, you know what? That was a mistake. I didn't even think about it. We had lethal there either way. We could have Key to the City, the Hazoret, and then Aftermath the Ribbons. So that was just me being brain farting there. So yeah, we just, because the Ribbons, we shouldn't what we should have done was not draw the card off the Key to the City. Then we have the 5 mana and a card to discard. So that is going to be the match, though, either way.